A bombshell new report from the Washington Post alleges Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth gave what many are calling an illegal order earlier this year.
All has to do with the first attack on alleged narco-terrorists in the Caribbean Sea back on September 2nd. The Post reports that intelligence showed 11 people were on a boat off the Trinidad coast when it was struck with a missile. Minutes later, as the boat continued to burn, 2 people were allegedly seen clinging to the side of the boat. That's when a second strike was launched to reportedly comply with Hegseth's initial orders, greenlighting the operation. According to 2 people with direct knowledge of that operation, the order was to, quote, kill everybody. Now, since then, the military has carried out several more strikes on vessels in the region, killing more than 80 people in total.
A former military lawyer, Todd Huntley, told the Post that at least the initial strike, quote, amounts to murder, since the alleged traffickers pose no imminent threat of attack against the United States and are not, as the Trump administration has tried to argue, in a, quote, armed conflict with the U.S. He continued, even if the U.S. were at war with the traffickers, in order to kill all the boat's occupants, if they were no longer able to fight, quote, would be in essence in order to show no quarter, which would be a war crime. Something that Senator Mark Kelly echoed on Sunday. Take a listen.
Do you believe if there was a second strike to eliminate any survivors, that constitutes a war crime?
It seems to. If that is true, if what has been reported is accurate, I've got serious concerns about anybody in that chain of command stepping over a line that they should never step over. We are not Russia. We're not Iraq.
If you received that order, would you have carried it out?
No.
Kelly's been a recent target of Hegseth for being one of 6 former military and intelligence members in Congress that participated in a video urging service members to disobey unlawful orders. President Trump and the administration have said the video amounted to sedition, and the Pentagon has launched an investigation into Kelly for his participation.
Meanwhile, in response to the Post's explosive report, the House Armed Services Committee said Saturday that they would seek a, quote, full accounting of that first vessel attack. Republican Chair Mike Rogers said in a statement, quote, this committee is committed to providing rigorous oversight of the Department of Defense's military operations in the Caribbean. We take seriously the reports of follow-on strikes on boats alleged to be ferrying narcotics in the Southcom region and are taking bipartisan action to gather a full accounting of the operation in question.
As for the Pentagon, a chief spokesperson, Sean Parnell, said of the Post report, quote, this entire narrative is completely false. Ongoing operations to dismantle narco-terrorism and to protect the homeland from deadly drugs have been a resounding success. And Hegseth himself took to X, writing in part, as usual, the fake news is delivering more fabricated, inflammatory, and derogatory reporting to discredit our incredible warriors fighting to protect the homeland.
A lot of people were upset at Mark Kelly and the other leadership that created that video. Basically because, in your perspective, and correct me if I'm wrong, we're putting the onus on military members when the onus should be on Congress to make these decisions. And we know that the president has skipped over Congress in these decisions, particularly regarding how he wants to respond to Venezuela or counter-narcotics missions, and label them counterterrorism. And that's his loophole of getting around it, because he's fighting what he's calling now terrorism. I think to look at where we are now, and 80 people have been killed, and if this report by the Washington Post is true, where he did strike the boat and then ordered the extra strike of those 2 people hanging off the side to also be killed, that's considered by both the U.S. and international communities as a war crime. And so we should not want our military operating like that. And it makes Mark Kelly and the other leaders that were in that video's argument even more relevant, that if any leader in that position feels that that exact order was a war crime, and that's the most recent relevant example, then that's why they're putting this video forward. They must be reviewing what we all understand now as public information. And Mark Kelly's going on all these TV shows and saying a lot of this does not look right. Even other leadership in the Republican Party is saying some of this doesn't feel right. And so if we have several voices saying that and then this video being made, they're being critiqued to no end over the video, when the real critique should just be what's happening overseas, what's happening in these waters, and why can it not be transparent? Like, if the president has overwhelming evidence that these people are criminals and have all the drugs they have, then present it, because we already know one specific case of a family in Trinidad and Tobago, reported by the New York Times, whose son was killed in one of these strikes, and they're saying is not carrying narcotics in any way. And so just like they have the onus to prove that their son is not a drug criminal, the president really has the bigger one, since he left people dead, to prove why we're killing people.
I am not I'm having trouble, frankly, understanding why the second shot is the thing people are freaked out over
because
here.
striking a drug boat is one thing, but then there were two people
Why?
that were still. No, because you're allowed to strike a drug boat if you feel like that. Well, the president used his counterterrorism proposal to strike a drug boat. But when somebody is incapacitated, hanging off the boat and lifeless almost, but still alive, you usually capture that criminal to get to the bottom of whatever you're doing. You don't then shoot them again. You don't try to kill them again and blow them up again.
To blow up the boat in the first place was
the bad decision. Exactly. But when people are alive and you can get information about and make sure that you're following through on killing a drug criminal, we could have made sure in that moment, right? We could have captured them. We could have showed proof.
We can capture them without firing on them in the first place. That's
exactly.
what I'm saying.
So it's even more of he killed innocent people that could not attack. Like, this was not an attack against the U.S. They actually had no capacity to attack because they were hanging off the boat almost lifeless but still alive. And killing them further is not a threat to the U.S. in any way or our military troops. That's the point. If you don't know what's on the boat, that's one thing. But once you bomb the boat and there's nothing but particles and people hanging off, why are you killing those last two?
I mean, because they're eliminating the drug. Once they've fired on the ship, I don't know why it matters that they're. I mean, this, in the same way, this is double tap, right? This is our drone strikes in the Middle East do the same thing when they take out when they, being our government, including under Biden and very much so under President Barack Obama, chose to eliminate some terrorist leader and blow up some building and kill everybody else in the building, or everybody else at the wedding. Didn't we hit a wedding once? Causing massive additional casualties. Why is that any different than this? Now, to be clear, I think that was wrong too.
Yeah,
I just don't know why this is not, so this has been done. So this is wrong in the same way that every president since 9/11 has violated law and common decency to blow people up.
Why we're talking specifically about
conflict.
This incident and the last two people that were alive is because when you are attacking what could be a boat that you're putting under the terrorism guise that could have weapons in addition to drugs and all the things that you might not know because it's an entire vessel, you blow it up and then there's no capacity for the members to retaliate against the U.S. because they're hanging off the side of the ship. So
there
why
was no capacity for them to attack the United States in the first place.
That's the point of Mark Kelly. But he's saying you double down.
But that's what I'm saying. He's
because you could argue.
Shot.
You can argue that they might have weapons on the boat. They could fight. There's plenty of arguments why the president is saying could try to argue that he shot the boat that he thought had drugs on it. But once you see people that have nothing left but particles of a boat hanging off the side, then there's no reason to kill them because they should be brought. They should be brought to justice. Well, generally, law. This is handled by law. This is not handled by the president pulling the trigger and making a decision, right?
I'm just saying.
So that yes, you're right. This whole
finishing off the ship.
Either finishing off the ship or blowing up the ship are both the same issue for me.
Okay.
Well, it's all in one.
Focus on the second shot, which I don't
because those left two people killed that couldn't even fight back for themselves, so we don't even know that they were attacking.
We have to make it a fair fight? That's ridiculous.
No, we can't just.
If we're blowing up the ship, we're blowing up the ship. We should
but we're not agreeing to blow up the ship.
We should not count on people surviving, and we are making the decision to kill those people.
Well, certainly
now,
for transparency.
I think that
certainly for
decision is
transparency,
suspect,
the people that survive would provide information. That's certainly, or they wouldn't, and we would still the same way we catch any other terrorist. So certainly the people that provide would be valuable to transparency in the United States.
Let me back up here. My problem with this is that Congress has not signed off on the overthrow of the Venezuelan regime or a war against, a literal war against drug traffickers, has not designated them as such. Congress is providing no oversight. It is the role of Congress to structure these things and then for the president to carry out this operation. If Congress were to vote and say we regard these drug boats as an attack on the United States, we are declaring war on them, then Trump would have, in my view, the authorization to do exactly what they just did in this strike. That decision is being made without congressional oversight or without Congress voting to do it is what I have a problem with, not really the manner. I have a problem with the manner in which it's being carried out because Trump could, under law enforcement, have those people detained, have the boat seized and investigated. Just blowing them up and killing everyone would be fine if it was an actual war declared by Congress, but it's not. So that's my problem. But I've just found that if we're blowing them up, we're killing them. It's not. We should not expect anyone to survive. It's weird to do so, in my view. So I was confused by that. Up next, an Oklahoma University student claims she received an F grade on an essay because she cited the Bible. This created a lot of excitement, interest, and debate on social media. We'll be right back after this to discuss.